Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Grad School 101. Thank you for logging in to learn more about the graduate admission process. I'm Tim Panthel. I'm the Senior Director of Graduate Admission and Enrollment Management for Elmhurst University. I've been with the institution for a little over 18 years. I'm joined by our Assistant Director of Graduate Admission and alumna, Sarah Galarza,
Hello,
who
everyone.
who is actually a newly admitted student to the Elmhurst MBA program. So thank you again for joining us. I know it's virtual, but we'll try and make this as interactive as possible. Um, if you have questions at any point in time, please either make sure you're unmuted and just either raise your hand or just ask the question, or feel free to type it in the chat. And both Sarah and I will try and monitor the chat questions. And of course, we'll leave time at the end for general questions. So with that, pop quiz, first slide or second slide. Why go to graduate school? Well,
Anyone
let's hear it from the participants. What are reasons? Why are you thinking about going to graduate school?
Once again, you can feel free to type it in the chat. You can unmute and just shout out. We'd love to hear from you. Oh, we have something in the chat to continue my education in CSE. That's great. And we'll get
Right.
to
So one reason is because it's the required credential to get into the field. So like speech language pathology or CSD, you need to have the master's degree for employment, and that's kind of becoming the norm in quite a few fields. What other reasons might someone want to pursue a master's degree?
I think we have a few CSE students here today because a couple of them have said, same, me too.
All right. Well, does anybody want to make more money? Um, that's also another reason why a lot of people do pursue a master's degree. It's career advancement. So your bachelor's degree gets you that entry level position, and then maybe you want to move up to a management level position. You might need to go back to school and get, maybe an MBA, Master's of Business Administration. That's another reason. Um, how about career change? I mean, Sarah and I work with quite a few graduate, applicants who are looking to make a career change, and rather than going back and getting a second bachelor's degree in a completely different field, I always encourage students to consider the master's credential. Yes, you'll probably have to do some prerequisites if your undergraduate degree is vastly different from your master's degree, but it looks better on a resume, and I think it'd be more fulfilling for you to actually, get the master's degree versus a second bachelor's degree. Any other reasons someone might go to school for a master's degree? Believe it or not, some people do it for personal satisfaction. We get people enrolled who did early retirement, and it's like, that one thing in my life that I haven't yet accomplished is getting that advanced degree, and they might do it just for the pure enjoyment of the learning experience of being, back in the classroom, learning new ideas, and either doing further networking. Our MBA with the innovation and entrepreneurship specialty is actually becoming very, very popular. There's a lot of people, are interested in launching their own business or innovating within the organization that they currently are working at. And another reason is job security, and we'll talk about that in just another slide. By the way, I'm going to pop something here into the chat. It's a link to a website. Gradschoolroadmap.com is the actual website. And much of the content of today's presentation comes from Dr. Don Martin. He is the owner of the website. He is author of 2 books by the same name, Grad School Roadmap. I know Don for many, or have known Don for many, many years. He early retired from University of Chicago, the Booth School of Business, where he was the dean of admission. Now he's a professional speaker and a consultant, spending a lot of his time overseas in Europe and Asia, working with international students who are high potential and want to get into some of the top institutions in the United States. So that's Don's kind of second act after coming out of the office admission. So what we're going to literally do is kind of pull back the curtain for you all and give you an insider's view of what's the graduate admission process all about, and hopefully answer a lot of your questions. Now, let me go back to the money thing, and we're going to show you a slide in just a moment here, but just a couple of statistics to keep in mind. According to Kiplinger magazine, the median annual earnings of $50,281 for someone with a bachelor's degree climbs to over $73,000 for someone with an advanced degree. Now, keep in mind, we're talking median. It's not the average. The median is, half are above, half are below. This is also an aggregate of national data. And as you know, the cost of living here in Chicago and maybe New York and LA is far higher than Tupelo, Mississippi. So just kind of take that with a grain of salt, so to speak. Um, Now that actually translates. There's from a bachelor's and a master's in the workforce about $23,000 per year in additional earnings. Now, according to Georgetown University's Center on Employment Statistics, they do a lot of research over a 40-year career, which is kind of a typical, work life for an adult in the United States. You're going to earn on average $413,000 more over that 40-year period than someone with just a bachelor's degree. Now, I don't know about you, but I would really like to retire with an additional $413,000 in my retirement account. So, Sarah, if we can go to the next slide. This is data that actually Sarah pulled from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. On the left-hand side, we have the median weekly earnings. On the right-hand side, we have the unemployment rate. So in terms of like the median usual weekly earnings, you can see how as your level of education increases, what you are making, the median income on a weekly basis goes from 626 up to 1909. I don't know if I have my statistics with me. Hang on. Yes, I did some quick math, and for students that go between, if you are looking at what you should be earning with a bachelor's degree versus maybe friends you had in high school who went right into the workforce, retail, what have you, did not go to college, the difference is 65%. Now, if you want to earn an additional 18% more median income weekly, get the master's degree. And if you look at a comparison between someone with just a high school diploma and a master's degree, it's a whopping 95% difference in weekly income. So that's pretty phenomenal, regardless of what stuff is happening in the media, about what's the value of a college degree. Well, this is BLS data. This is not Elmhurst University data. So I trust the statistics that we're looking at here. Now, one other thing that a lot of people don't think about is this notion of unemployment security. And as you can see, the higher your level of education, the less likely you are to be unemployed during your career. So, for instance, 6.2% suggested average rate for someone with a high school diploma drops to 3.5% if you have a bachelor's degree, and that shrinks even further to just 2.6% if you have a master's degree. So, there's two factors working in your favor. One, higher income. Two, less chance of being out there collecting or having to collect unemployment. So let me throw out the next question, which I think is on the next slide. What are three major myths about graduate school? Have you thought about this, anybody who's out there? Again, you can pop it into the chat, you can unmute, but what are these major myths that we often hear people talking about? Oh, I think we stumped them, Sarah. All right, let me give you a hint. All right, first bullet point. It's too expensive. You can't afford it. It's too much of a time, crunch for me. Well, we're going to conclude today's session with some information on how the various ways that you can finance your graduate education. So I don't buy into that myth. I think grad school can be affordable regardless of your socioeconomic position, how much you're making. There's some great ways that you can finance your graduate education. The second myth we often hear about, if I can't get into one of the top 10 schools, ranked for my program of interest, it's not worth going to grad school. I disagree with that totally. A master's degree is going to look great on your resume. A master's degree is going to be something that no one can take away from you. It's an elite club. Um, of the US adult population over the age of 25, 13%, only 13%, it's a pretty elite club, have an advanced degree. And it's a club where you have lifetime membership. So there's a school for everyone, there's a program for everyone. Please don't give up. Consider going on for the master's degree. And the third myth is, hey, I wasn't exactly the greatest undergraduate student. I took 7 years to finish my bachelor's degree. And I'm a horrible standardized test taker. I chose the MBA program that I went through partially because it did not require the GMAT. Let me give you um, a quick tip. Okay, here's your first behind the scenes tip. If you do have a low GPA or low standardized test scores based upon the admission criteria of the institution or institution that you're applying for, if they allow non-degree or like graduate students at large enroll in 1 to 2 of the classes that are part of the program you're trying to get into, but you've got to ace those. You've got to get at least a B, B plus, shoot for the A. Then you can reapply with the next application cycle, and you're going to send transcripts from that institution with your application and be like, look, I was successful in your program as a non-degree student. Please reconsider my application for admission. Now, again, not all institutions have this non-degree status, but it can be an effective way of getting into your desired institution. All right, next question. What is one major mistake prospective graduate students often make? Sarah, I'm going to throw that on to you because you have the button to advance to the answer.
I do. You want me to advance?
Go for it. Yeah. Not doing enough research before applying. So think about when you were looking at undergraduate institutions and how you chose Elmhurst University. I'm going to guess by a show of hands, and actually, if you want to use the reaction button and put your hands up, how many of you logged in today went to some sort of an on-campus event? So you were physically here on campus prior to making the admission decision that this was the right place for you. Yeah, I see a ton of the hands are going up. The same holds true for graduate school. One of the conversations I had with Dr. Martin after he left the Booth School is, students who would leave the program, and it's just like, wow, if you get into U of Chicago's MBA program, why would you leave? And cultural misfit is really what he said. And he would interview the students. They would do an exit interview, and he found that the majority of the students who left were because they chose U Chicago without doing enough research. They did it based upon, oh my God, it's one of the top 10 MBA programs in the country. They never went to Chicago. They never went to the campuses. They never met with students or faculty or the deans or anything. And their expectation and the realization of what the actual experience was like was at odds, and that's why they ended up. So I would suggest doing the same type of research and visiting the campuses that you are looking to apply for your graduate program. All right, question number 4. How to determine the right program? Well, first of all, you're going to have to find institutions that offer your desired program. So not all schools offering a master's in engineering. That's one area that Elmhurst does not have programming in. So I would suggest taking a look at one of two sites. The site that's kind of the proven one that's been out there the longest is gradschools.com. They list over 70,000 accredited graduate school programs that you can, do some preliminary research. Do they offer the type of a degree I'm looking for? Where are they located? What are the admission requirements? The other great resource is Niche. It's NICHE.com. So niche.com. Thank you, Sarah, for popping it there in the chat. We are listed on both of these websites. We get inquiries from both of those websites on a weekly basis, and it's a great way to begin your search. One other thing that you might want to take into consideration is the geography. Do you want to get out of the Midwest? Are you tired of the cold winters and the humid summers? I mean, do you want to go to the East Coast? Do you want to go to the West Coast? Do you want to go down south where it's, you really like the heat and humidity of the Gulf Coast or something? So you can take that into consideration when you are doing your research in terms of the institutions that offer your desired program. All right, the next thing to do is consider how important are rankings or prestige of the institution. Kind of a trick question because, yes, you do want to be cognizant of US News and World Report rankings, prestigious faculty, but I would suggest don't make your decision on where you attend solely on the rankings. Don't be like that University of Chicago student who just went there because, they saw there were the top 10 MBA programs, and when they got there, it was nothing like they, had expected. And then finally, you probably went to a college fair, maybe in high school, or if you transferred into Elmhurst from a community college, you probably still attended some sort of a college fair. Well, there are graduate school fairs too. The majority of them in the area are offered in the fall. October is kind of the hotbed. There's something known as the I-74 graduate school fair. We go down to U of I, we go locally to St. Xavier. University of Illinois Chicago downtown has one of the largest ones in the state of Illinois. There'll be 500 plus institutions, including international institutions present. So that's a great way to actually get more information. Now, let me give you a couple of tips. When you go to a graduate school fair, you walk up to the table, and either the admissions person is there. Sometimes it's faculty. Sometimes it's the program director or the dean of the program. You want to ask them at least a couple questions. And the first question, which is probably the more important of the two, is how will you evaluate me or my application for admission? All right, so this is going to give you some insider intelligence in terms of what is the school looking for. Is it strictly GPA? Is it high test scores? Is it a combination? Is it people who did tons of volunteer work? Are they looking for students who had study away experience? So ask the person at the table how you're going to be evaluated in terms of their admission criteria or their admission standards. The second question that you might want to ask is, do they do alumni surveys? So can you read what alumni have said about their experience in the program? Or is there a current student that you can connect with to pick their brain about what it's like being in their graduate program? How much work is involved? What are the class schedules like? What do you plan on doing when you finish this with the degree? So, two great questions to ask. How will you evaluate my application? And see if you can get some insider intelligence from either an alum or a current student. All right. I'm going to turn things over to Sarah for the next slide.
So, as you're doing your research, it's really important to kind of narrow down the schools in this process and figure out, okay, what are my top schools? And then that leads me to the question, how many schools should I apply to? So what do you guys think? 3, 10, 12, some other number? You can feel free to type it in the chat or shout it out and unmute yourself.
Come on, let's get some guesses in there. Put them in
Yeah,
the chat. It's easy enough to do. 3, 10, 12, 15, 25, 1.
yeah, one. Three,
All
okay.
right, we see
Got
1. Thank you,
one.
Jocelyn. 5 or
Five
7.
or seven, okay. At least five. Five, okay. That's great.
Yeah, keep in
So,
mind that, the graduate school applications can run in excess of $200. So you don't want to do too many. You can go bankrupt.
yes.
But Sarah, what would you suggest? What's kind of the ideal number?
So I'd suggest seven, actually. It's kind of that magic number, and here's why. You really want to have two top schools, like the schools that if you could go anywhere, these are your top ones, and you're aiming to go to those schools. But it's also really important in case those schools are really competitive or you're, barely meet those minimum requirements, that you have other schools that are still good options that you know that you can get easily admitted to. And so that brings me to having at least three good schools that you'll know that you are confident that you can be admitted to. And then again, if it's a competitive year and those five schools don't work out, it's really important to have two safety schools where, they're good programs, you're interested in them. Maybe they have a few things that, aren't ideal situations, but you definitely know you could be successful there if everything else doesn't pan out. And that brings us to a total of seven schools. And that's also a little bit more manageable too when it comes to paying all those application fees, since most schools do have some sort of application fee, whether it's applied to tuition or not. But that's another thing to look at as well. The next part about the application process is thinking about the standardized tests that you're going to need to take. These are the four main tests that we have listed here. And each school and each program has slightly different tests that you would need to take. And some schools don't require you to take tests at all. I'm not sure what kind of majors we have here, but if anybody's interested in, a general business or, technology degree, you might have to take the GRE. You might have to take the GMAT if you're looking to go into a managerial type program. If you're looking at going into medical school, right, you might have to take the MCAT. If you're looking into law school, you might need to take the LSAT. And when you're thinking about, these tests and what you need to do to prepare for them, you might consider taking a pretest and seeing where you score and kind of then gauge, okay, do I need to invest in a prep program or can I utilize the free resources on the websites for these tests that oftentimes do provide free practice tests and additional resources to help you prepare. But that's something to definitely take into consideration. And those also, have a fee associated with them. So, think through that, look through that as part of the requirements as well.
So, Sarah, let me just add in there because I've often gotten the question, and I've been in higher ed admissions, primarily adult and graduate,
Mhm.
for 29 years now, and it's like, should I take the test prep? And, as
Mhm.
Sarah mentioned, these test sites have free practice tests. Log in, get a practice exam, put yourself in the same environment that you would be actually taking the exam. Turn the phone off, TV off, whatever, close the door, do the timer thing, and see what your score is. Then compare that to the seven schools that you are looking to apply to. If your scores are pretty close, you might just need to purchase some sort of an online resource, a book, or what have you. If there's a bit of a gap between where you're at and what the minimum score is, you might want to look into one of these test prep companies. Boy, they're on campus or on site. They do them online. They do one, individual. They do group sessions. Remember that the more individualized it's going to be, the higher the price is going to be. But that's one way that I suggest students take the free practice test, see how you do, and then make your decision. How about number of times I should take the test? What do you think? Anybody want to? So think back to like your SAT and ACT days, if any of you took it
Yeah.
more than once. Graduate level testing is a little bit more involved, 1 to 3.
Okay.
Bingo.
Yeah.
The research kind of shows that after 3 attempts, you're probably not going to move your scores up any higher, regardless of the amount of preparation. You've kind of hit that glass ceiling, so to speak, and probably running out of money to pay for the exams.
Yep. Well, in addition to the standardized test, you also will most likely need to provide additional documentation with your application. And we call this our application file components. Typical application file components are a resume. Um, they would maybe include a writing sample, such as a statement of purpose. Oftentimes, you'll need letters of recommendation, and that varies how many you need and what types of sources, which we'll get into in a minute. And then the number one thing that all schools look at when you're applying to grad school is those transcripts. You'll need to request official transcripts from all institutions you attended at the undergraduate level, even if it's for one course. They want to make sure that you have all the prerequisites and that they're seeing all those courses that allowed you to earn your first degree, to make sure that, again, you're a right fit for the program. Getting into some of these other components, though, Tim, did you want to share some insight onto the letters of recommendation? And
Yes, yes.
yeah.
So like Elmhurst requires three letters of recommendation. It's fairly standard. One to three is pretty typical for a graduate application. Who might be great people to tap? First and foremost, if you're coming right in from an undergraduate program, tap faculty. And I would suggest faculty that you had more than one course with. They know you for 2 semesters, so to speak. And if it's like a faculty member you had during like freshman, sophomore year, and they haven't, seen you for a couple of years, you might need to do a little memory jog. Hey, I'm the student who did XYZ. My paper was about blah, blah, blah. Prompt them. If I get asked to write letters of recommendation and I can't remember who the student was, it'd be like, tell me more about yourself. And like, tell me some of the things you excel in, tell me some of the things you struggle with, and then I'll kind of craft that into a nice positive letter of recommendation. Now, many of our applicants, because we have many part-time programs, have been in the workforce for 5, 10, 15 years or more. They don't keep in contact with their faculty. So we ask them to submit a recommendation from a current or past supervisor or even a peer. So if you have to work closely with somebody else, maybe in the same department or different department to get your job done, tap them to write that letter of recommendation. Who should you not ask for a letter of recommendation from, Sarah?
Your spouse or any blood relative.
Yes, yes, true story. Years ago, I received an outstanding letter of recommendation for an MBA student written by his wife, and it was just glowing. And I had to go back to the applicant and say, I'm sure your wife thinks the world of you, but we need a little less biased
Mhm.
opinion. So could you send us another letter of recommendation? And then I want to backtrack also that statement of purpose. Oftentimes it's used as a writing sample. So make sure you've got at least a second set of eyeballs reviewing that before you either submit it electronically, you email it in, or what have you. We do that here because we don't require for most of our programs any of the standardized tests, but we want to make sure that you're able to communicate at a graduate level.
And I did want to point out that the WCPE and the library have tons of resources and people that are willing to meet with you to help you put together some of these components, whether it's for applying for a job or applying to grad school. They can work with you to help, make your resume look professional with that statement of purpose, advise you maybe on, if you have a few people in mind for those letters of recommendation, to kind of, tailor it down to what would be a nice variety of people writing those for you. So again, great resource on campus. They should definitely take advantage of while you're still here.
And then many programs require an actual personal interview, and it might be one-on-one with a faculty member, it might be with an admission committee, it might be with a combination of admissions folks and faculty. And I'll have some comments on the next slide about being successful in those admission interviews.
Well, and the last bit of this about the application process is, when should I apply?
It's a great question, Sarah. When should students apply for grad school?
Well, the easy answer is by the deadline,
But
but
that's not necessarily good,
not
right?
necessarily good, as soon as possible, right? You don't want to rush through any of the, components of your application. You want to make sure that you've taken the time to, really carefully and considerably put together everything that you need for admission. So you're looking the best and putting your best foot forward for the admission team and for the faculty at the school you're looking to attend. So, again, if you wait to the last minute, you're going to be rushing. There's going to be mistakes. You might not get everything in on time.
Don't do
We're a
it.
rolling,
Don't
yeah,
do it.
we're a rolling admission school. So
Yeah.
oftentimes it's if you meet the requirements and you're fit for the program and you're admitted, it's first come, first serve. So again, looking at all these different aspects is really important while you're applying and putting together that application file.
Yeah. And the onus is on you to know everything about that application process at the institution. Not all schools operate in the same, cycle when they open and close the application. Some don't even do rolling admission. They wait till it closes and then they evaluate the entire pool. So you really need to make sure it's like knowing your syllabus in exam in advance. Don't be surprised if it's just like, oh no, I missed the deadline. It was last Friday. Onus is on you, the applicant.
Yeah, definitely. All right, moving on.
So, what are some ways to get positively noticed during the admission process? The first bullet point here is it seems really simple, folks, but we really mean it. Follow directions, okay? Only send in what is required for your application. Do not send any superfluous information, credentials, unless it's specifically asked for by that institution. We will shred it here at Elmhurst if we get anything above and beyond what we require, what Sarah just went through, the app, the letters of recommendation, transcript, statement of purpose, resume. Um, and here's a big heads up. If you have a disability, you do not disclose it during the admission process. Once you are admitted, you will then work with the disabilities coordinator, advisor, dean at that institution who will make reasonable accommodations. So do not disclose any disabilities when you are submitting your application credentials. The second bullet point, we've kind of already touched on that. Utilize great references, write a winning personal statement, but don't make yourself sound like, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. You want to present an accurate picture of you. Um, the, uh, the personal statement prompt that we use here is why are you interested in the MBA program and how, or no, why, what are your career goals and how will the MBA program help you achieve those career goals? Um, Schools, programs will have different prompts. They'll change them year over year. Make sure you address, if there's multiple prompts, make sure that you are addressing every one of those points that they're asking for you to do. And do not use AI. You might want to run the question up on ChatGPT just to kind of get some ideas, but admission departments are now looking at software, us included, that can actually determine if a writing sample from the student, like the statement of purpose, was actually produced by artificial intelligence. So just kind of a heads up on that. You want to paint a very accurate, portrait of yourself. It's okay to have flaws. No one's perfect, right? I mean, we all have, things we can improve upon. Number three, this is when I was going to talking about the interview. So if it's a phone interview, which I don't think we do much more with the admin of Zoom and what have you, but keep a smile on, okay? Smile when you dial, smile when you're in the Zoom or in-person interview. Dress professionally. If you're on Zoom, at least from the waist up. If you're in person, you want to have the whole, suit and tie on or the formal business outfit. And so you look your best, dress for success. The bottom line, show that you are interested, you're professional, you're ready to be a graduate student at that institution. And this is important too. Keep your cool no matter what happens. I like to think that our interviews here at Elmhurst University are 50-50. 50% the faculty member asking you questions about the components of your application, and the other 50% is the student asking the program director very specific questions that they want answered before they make the decision to move forward. Some institutions, especially those that are your top ranking schools and those who have limited enrollment programs, they're going to grill you. It might be a very high pressure interview. So just kind of have a heads up on that. Don't lose your cool. You'll get through it. Just keep smiling and do your best in that. And then finally, well, the send a cover letter was Dr. Don's message when we did paper applications. But right now, I'm going to suggest, sending an email once you've submitted your application. So you should have a contact or at least one contact. If you're just applying blindly, I don't know. I would dig deeper, find out who is reviewing your materials, compiling your materials. You want somebody on the other side of that curtain to be your advocate. And one way to get their attention is through a cover email. And really, it's 3 paragraphs, okay? The first paragraph is real simple. Hi, my name is TJ. I just submitted my application for your XYZ program. Second paragraph. You could add some to that. It doesn't have to be the one sentence. Okay, paragraph number 2. I've spent considerable time doing research on graduate schools, and the reasons I've chosen to apply to your program are bullet point 1, bullet point 2, bullet point 3. Okay, give them 3 reasons why you want to go to school there. And or I really want to learn from Dr. So and so about their research in blah, 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 blah. What does this do to the institution? It shows that you've done your homework, you've done your research, you really have an interest in going to that particular school and enrolling in that particular graduate program. Now, the third one I share with caution, okay? You can only use this one time, and when I read through it, you understand why. So you're going to close out that cover email by saying that you want to reinforce that you want to earn your master's degree at that institution and that you would like to or be willing to come in for an interview or online for an interview. And now here's the coup de grace. If you admit me, I will enroll. Thank you for considering my application. This is why I say you can only do it once. Okay, you can't do this to the top 3 schools because if you get 2 offers of admission, they're going to be like, Lucy, you got some splaining to do. And so use it just one time. Use it for the top school that you want to get into because you don't want to be, a liar. Okay, we want to be honest, we want to be ethical, we want to have integrity through the admission process. But this is one way that you can get a lot of eyeballs or people to light up and be like, wow, Sarah really wants to go to Elmhurst University. Okay, here's a kind of a Debbie Downer slide. So, what happens if you're not admitted? So, one of 2 things can happen. One, you could be put on a wait list, and 2, you might be denied admission. Now, the wait list is kind of a keep hope alive, all right? So, again, we talked earlier that some programs have rolling admission and they're limited number of students. So, once they hit that, they cut it off, and anybody else admitted will go on a wait list. Now, historically, at least at Elmhurst University, every single graduate program we've had what's called MELT. Students who are admitted, they deposited, and for whatever reason, decided that they're not coming in the fall, and they notify us in advance, and then we're able to go to people on the wait list and start offering them admission. If you are waitlisted, I would get in contact with whoever you're working with at that institution. See if you can get some information from them. How long is the wait list? Am I on the high wait list or the low wait list? What are my chances of actually getting admitted historically based upon, your student melts, things like that. And if you don't get in, then you want to consider, the next application cycle, whether it's a spring start or if it's an annual, start to the program, you want to then apply for the next year. Now, if you're denied admission, definitely follow up. It's like getting denied a job after a series of job interviews. What was it that I did not have that other candidates who got admitted had? And if it's something that you absolutely can't change, if it's your undergraduate GPA, if it's the test scores, even though you took the test 3 times and you went to Kaplan test prep, you know what, folks? It's probably not the right school for you. Don't take it personally, okay? Rule number one, do not take it personally. There's the right school and right program for every single student. Just move on to the next institution. So there's nothing you can do. Um, you can, however, ask them, how close you were to being admitted. And here's why I suggest that. Every year, the pool of applicants is going to be different. Okay. So one year, the average GPA might be 3.25, but the next year it might be 3.20. And if you had a 3.22 or something and you didn't get in this year, you might be selected for admission the following year. Um, the people in the admissions office are going to have that information for you, and they should ethically, guide you. You know what? You were so close. I do encourage you to apply again next year, or it's like, now it's probably not going to happen here for you. So, all right, moving on.
How do I pay
So,
for grad school, Tim?
I have 5 different ways. The first is to research scholarship and fellowship opportunities at the institution. That might even be part of your preliminary research, so that if it's a very expensive institution and you're self financed, you know, what are their scholarships and fellowships look like? Does anybody logged in here know the difference between a scholarship and a fellowship? Come on, someone please unmute.
Or type in the chat, either is fine.
All right. I'm not too sure. Thank you. Okay, great.
Well,
So, all right. So there's a fine line between the two. Um, so typically, they're both free money. If you earn a scholarship or a fellowship from the institution, that's money that's going right to your student account to pay for your cost of attendance. The difference really becomes that a scholarship has no strings attached. You got the money, proceed, pass go, collect $50. Fellowships, you're getting that money, but there's usually some sort of a string attached in terms of you need to work 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, whatever, with the department, with the faculty. You need to be a cohort leader. That's pretty common to say that if we give you this fellowship opportunity, you're the person taking attendance, every time the class meets or what have you. So that's just really the difference. They're both free money. They don't have to pay them back. Just one comes typically with a little extra requirement. The second way is to apply for graduate student loans. They're maxing out at $20,500 per year. If the cost of your program is above that, you can actually then apply for a PLUS loan. PLUS actually stands for parental loans for undergraduate students. So your parents may have had to take that out for your experience at Elmhurst. But as a graduate student, you can tap into the Graduate Plus loans. Now, the benefits of these two types of financing are that they're the lowest interest rates available. The lowest is going to be your graduate school loan, and then the plus loan is going to have a little bit higher interest rate. The government changes or adjusts the rate every year, usually in early July. And then you'll know exactly, what those loans are. If you need additional money, you can get a private loan from your bank, and that's going to have the highest level of interest. Also, keep in mind, your graduate loans and your plus loans are what we would call good credit. They don't count against you on your credit report, like buying a car or buying a boat or something. Your personal loan from your local Chase Bank or something, that is going to hit your credit score and, be one form of the kind of negative, I guess negative credit would be another way to put it. Getting back to the graduate loans, they're all unsubsidized loans, meaning you're going to accrue interest from the time you accept that loan, you sign your promissory note, to the time you pay off that loan. If you're able, we always suggest you can make payments on that while you're in school. So if it's a situation where you can work a part-time job and you can start paying the cost of the loans off, I would suggest, try and make some sort of a monthly payment. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you have undergraduate loans, and pretty much all of us do, and I did. Sarah, did you have undergraduate loans?
I did. Yep.
So when you enroll in graduate school, they're deferred. So you can stop paying on that until 6 months after you receive your or earn your master's degree. Then there's something called consolidation, where you can consolidate what you owe for the undergraduate and what you owe for the graduate degree and then make one payment. Now, this is a pretty high interest year. The Fed's raised the rates, what I think, 5 times in this fiscal year. If you're graduating from Elmhurst now and then you're going to graduate school, typical program's 2 years in length. Hopefully, the interest rates are going to be lower then. So you're actually going to see a savings in your total interest when it comes to pay back your undergraduate and graduate loans. So I just want to put a little plug in there and kind of demystify the whole graduate loan situation. The third option is consider working where you attend. These are called assistantships or graduate assistantships. We call them GAs. We have them here at Elmhurst. A lot of them are assistant coaching positions, but we also have graduate assistants in a number of the different departments on campus, as do many institutions. You can get a GA position where you're a teaching assistant in an undergraduate classroom. And those are wonderful because at the top level, it's a free tuition ride. So your tuition is waived. Sometimes there's a small stipend for living expenses, but don't expect to eat more than ramen noodles or mac and cheese, while we call it the poor starving graduate student. But the beauty of that is you're not ending up with thousands of dollars in additional loans once you finish the program. The fourth is what I did, and that's I waited a few years after my 7 year undergraduate career to go back for my MBA. And my employer did have tuition assistance, which really helped defray the cost of my out of pocket expenses. So that's another strategy. If you're going to wait for a few years, get into workforce, see what type of tuition assistance your employer has, you can apply that. And then the fifth, and perhaps one of the most lucrative, is to apply for what are called major scholarships. So these are national scholarships. That being said, they're very lucrative, but you're also competing against a national audience. Not to say that we haven't had successful students. We've had Fulbright scholarships winners the last 5 years. I think we've had two in the last 5 years. If you are that caliber of a student and you are no further along in your undergraduate career than junior level, get in contact with Mary Kay Mulvaney. She's the honors program director, part of the Department of English. She's located in the lower level of the library, room 217. Mary M at Elmhurst is her email address, and her phone number's on there as well. She will schedule an intake interview with you. It's a form where she's going to go through and look at all the courses, your grades, all of your extra activities, your study abroad experience, your internships, anything you volunteered with. And then she will guide you in what graduate program you're looking at, and guide you towards the appropriate scholarships that you may be able to participate in. But if you are beyond if you're a senior right now and you're logged in, I'm sorry, but that ship has kind of sailed.
So, in case you are interested in one of our graduate programs, we wanted to share what we offer here at Elmhurst University. As an alum, so once you've graduated from your undergraduate program, you can come back and take your first graduate course for free as an alumni benefit in one of these programs here. So we've broken down our graduate programs into 4 different areas: our business programs, education, healthcare, and technology. For our business programs, we have an industrial organizational psychology degree, which is a people management degree. We have our MBA with different concentrations. You can focus on data science, you can focus on marketing, consumer insight, etc. We have a project management master's degree and a supply chain management master's degree. In the education department, these degrees are and endorsements are for teachers who are currently teaching. They have their teacher licensure and they're working in a school, and they can come back to receive their master's in special education or in teacher leadership. We also offer 3 different endorsements for our teachers: the ESL and bilingual endorsement, the special education or LBS1 endorsement, and the teacher leader endorsement. If you're interested in healthcare, or I think there's a few CSD students here today, then you know that you need a master's degree for your entry-level position. So you hopefully will consider staying at Elmhurst and applying to our highly competitive CSD program. We also have a BSN to RN to MSN option, sorry for the typo, where you can move into a master's in nursing, master's of science in nursing. Then we also have a master's entry in nursing practice. So let's say you've gotten a bachelor's degree in a different field, such as teaching or technology, but you want to go back and you, again, don't want to earn that second bachelor's degree, as Tim was talking about earlier. You want to, pursue that master's degree. We do have an entry level nursing practice master's degree that you can apply for. We also have an occupational therapy master's program, which again is one of those programs that you would need to get that master's degree in order to be in an entry level position in that field. And lastly, we have a master's in public health. Finally, our technology programs, we have a CIT program, data science and analytics, and a GIS program that with certificates associated with that as well at the graduate level. So lots of different options here. We love having alumni. We have quite a few alumni come back and enroll in these programs or take some courses. You get that free course voucher, and they really love coming back to Elmhurst and being able to pursue an advanced degree here. We have 4 amazing counselors here on the graduate admission team that represent the different programs. All of this information is also on our website. If you look up graduate admission, you can find us there. Nick, myself, Jim, and Carrie are all willing and would love to meet with you to discuss the different programs that we specialize in.
So with that said, who has the first question?
Oh, you want me to send the articles?
Oh, yes. Okay. So we're going to get the questions. So Sarah's going to attach a link. It's two articles. Yes, they're old from 2015, but they are still very, very relevant. One of them talks about all the different options you have as a graduate student, on-campus programs, online programs, full-time programs, part-time programs, as well as, answering the question, should I go right into a master's program? Should I get out and try and work in the field? So it does a great job of going through all the different options that a student would have in terms of choosing a graduate program. The second article that's also scanned in is kind of like one document that you can pull down now from the chat. Talks about the difference between an undergraduate student's experience and a graduate student's experience. So, just a couple of things that it highlights. When you're an undergraduate student, you're pretty much dedicated to school 24/7. You eat, sleep, and drink Elmhurst University. You might live in a residence hall or commute from home. You're taking classes, you're studying, you're eating in the cafeteria. Your whole life, you might have a part-time job, but your whole life really revolves around your undergraduate experience. At the graduate level, many students are part-time students and they're juggling their jobs, perhaps a family, kids, elder care situations. So it's a different perspective. Second thing is that you're going to be competing with higher caliber students at the graduate level just because of the nature of like admission requirements. And the third thing, and this was my biggie, what my favorite thing was about my graduate experience, I don't let the faculty hear this, but no general education courses. My MBA was 100% business courses, marketing, accounting, finance, general management, international business, compensation and benefits, training and development, project management, sales management. And I enjoyed, all of those topics. And I didn't have to take, courses from outside of my particular field. So just, keep those in mind. But these are great articles. Please do yourself a favor and read through them. And if you have questions, now is a great time to either post them in the chat or you can again unmute. Is there
There we go.
is there anyone specific?
Go ahead. Oh. Is there anyone specific I can talk to about masters in CST, such as what they're looking for in graduate students? And yes, I would recommend reaching out to our admission counselor, Carrie Bohan, and she would love to meet with you. You can schedule an individual appointment with her, and I'll type her email into the chat because I know there's a few of you here.
Yep.
And she would love to meet with you to discuss the program.
Yep. And the graduate admissions staff is not located in Copeland Hall where the undergraduate office is. We're actually over in Daniels Hall. Right as you walk in, we've got kind of the immediate section on the left and then the section right ahead. So that's where you would be coming to meet with one of the graduate counselors. Other questions? Really appreciate you joining us this evening. Really appreciate your interest in graduate school. The way this Grad School 101 actually got started goes back probably 15 years now, and our former Vice President of Academic Affairs was concerned about the rate of our graduates going on to graduate school, and it wasn't outstanding, and she wanted a way to try and increase the number of our students who finished Elmhurst and went on for a master's degree. So that's how this Grad School 101 program really began. It's kind of just trying to demystify, what grad school is, how do you apply for it. So I do hope that you have found the information presented this evening to be very beneficial.
Yes. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We hope you have a great rest of your evening.